Hello, folks. It is Thursday by the time you're watching this. So today, I hope you're well, by the way. Today, we have got Hayley Whipp, who has very bravely agreed to come and share her story with us. She's not really done stuff like this before outside of her small group of friends. That came out wrong. That sounded like you've got a small group of friends. What I meant to say was she hasn't shared this kind of story outside of her closest friends. I'm sure she's got a very wide group of friends. So Hayley's going to talk to us about her personal journey around bipolar. Borderline personality disorder. I could start this again, but it just proves I'm human.
I think it's very close to bipolar, though, to be fair.
There are similarities,
yeah.
Yes, indeed, but yet it's a different thing. So borderline personality disorder, that's what we're going to discuss today. We're recording it on a lovely sunny day where I am, and then we will release this on Thursday for you to watch and hopefully enjoy. And if you guys have any questions or comments whilst you're watching, then do just put them at the bottom, and Hayley may or may not respond to them.
Oh, I think I probably will.
Lovely. So, Hayley, thank you very much for agreeing to come on to the Hive. It's much appreciated and very courageous of you. So, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Paul. I'm quite nervous still, but I'm sure I'll settle down.
I hope so. Yeah. So, it's very normal to feel nervous doing something for the first time, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's beyond the comfort zone. So, much appreciated. And I think, by doing this type of stuff, it helps others because it helps them to understand more about mental health issues. It helps to connect you with the person, destigmatize, increase awareness.
Yeah.
Also just inspire others to open up as well. So you're doing a great thing.
Yeah, I think this is part of the disorder is for me anyway, feeling my whole life that everybody does understand because everybody was like me, but it turns out actually they're not. But it was quite weird. It was like a double-edged sword. It's always been like I've always felt like everybody's like me, but I'm not like anybody else at the same time, if that makes sense. I was completely different, but everybody else was the same. Which is a bit bonkers, really, but...
Not bonkers, no, just different. And that's different, okay. I'm going to start off, as I said in the kind of preamble before we started recording, Hayley, I'm going to start asking people 2 questions. So we'll try and just kind of build up a bit of a picture here. So first of all, what do you love? What are your passions?
I would say my passions change quite a lot. This is part of what I've come to sort of realise in the last couple of years since I've realised what's going on with me. I've sort of did a bit of a log of my life. So when I do get a passion, I go all in with it. I either love something or hate it, but which has been part of what I've learned in the last couple of years to try not to be quite so passionate about things, because then when I lose it, I don't deal with that very well. So I would say one of my passions has always been reading. I love reading, no matter what it is. It's always, I think before it used to be trashy novels and things like that, but more recently it's become, I try to read one book to learn things about myself and other people and the way that their minds work and things like that, and then a trashy novel. And I think that's maybe and then back to another one of those. And I think that's maybe to give that sort of self-help book, psychology book, whatever, time to sort of work, time to sort of ingrain itself in me before I start on another one. So yeah, reading's always been one. Anything active, really. Yeah, I'm mainly running at the moment, but I've gone through it was cycling when I was a teenager. I was always out on my bike, and I think back now, and I literally used to just get on my bike and go for hours and hours and hours. Yeah, and my parents probably wouldn't let the 13-year-old girl do that now, but I don't know, I just used to cycle it and not even take inner tubes, or obviously there was no phones then either, so I just went. But luckily, I never got to a point where I was 20 miles away from home and got a puncture. It just never. I think the worst thing I had was an accident about a mile out of the village where a milk tanker nearly ran me over.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've got a massive scar on my shin ever since. But that was the worst thing that ever happened, really. So yeah, anything active, and I think now that's sort of work-wise as well. I'm very active at work again now as well. So working that way is a great passion of mine as well. So, but I would say, yeah, learning about things, and in a strange way, meditation's quite a passion as well now, because meditation about 3 years ago sort of saved and changed my life completely. So it's a strange thing to have a passion about, because but it's not a passionate thing that you're doing, is it? That's what I mean. For me, a passion is something that's active and you feel that passion about. But I feel passionate about that for the way it can change people's lives. Yeah, and live music is a massive passion of mine. Yeah, I love to go and see live bands, and I've been really missing that in the last few weeks. But it'll come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always gigs streaming live.
Yeah, it's not the same though, is it?
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, it is better than nothing. Yeah, I agree. But it's not just seeing the live music, it's being there with the people that are enjoying it, and it's that whole thing.
Yes. Yes, so that's lovely range of passions there, and a lot of those, I have in common. And something that I know about you is that you are very committed to whatever you do, and whether that's going inwards to yourself and discovering more and growing with your own journey, the reading, the running. You used to do a lot of marathons and stuff. And it sounds like with the cycling as well, you used to really go for it. So I just wonder if, before we get on to the next common question I'm going to ask everyone, do you think the way that you approach your passions, or perhaps have done in the past, like the running, the cycling, the reading, the meditating, is that kind of jumping in with both feet, being really, really passionate about it, part of your borderline personality disorder, or is that just part of who you are, or are they the same?
Well, I've always thought it was just part of who I am, but I think that is part of that disorder as well. That is one of the things that's the main sort of trait that I seem to have. And I've never actually been diagnosed by the doctors as having BPD. I was told I've got traits of it. And I could maybe push for a diagnosis if I want it, but I don't know what that would do for me. I've had sort of therapy through the NHS. So maybe in the future I'll feel like I want a diagnosis, but I just feel like it's a label. But yeah, that is, looking back, before I went for the last lot of counselling, I did sort of a timeline of my life, and I was like, oh, actually, yeah, right from being a child, right from being really small when I first picked up a pencil to draw. This is another passion of mine that's come back again recently. When I picked up a pencil to draw, I drove my parents mad, I think. I was just all the time, what can I draw? What can I draw? What can I draw? And that, right from being tiny, was my first obsession. It maybe goes a bit further than a passion when it becomes an obsession, and running became an obsession. I know that did. Yeah, with the marathon training, and I look back and I don't understand how I managed to do it.
Yeah.
How I managed to push myself so much to do it, into exhaustion, I think, really. Yeah.
So, obsession. You mentioned the word obsession there, and I suppose it is that there is some kind of line, I suppose, for all of us, where a hobby, a passion, any kind of interest can switch over to being an obsession that we do to an extreme amount. And would you say you're kind of more balanced? I know you're a lot more balanced with the running now, and you're just doing that for pleasure and fitness rather than really, going out.
And that came about really because it had to, because I had, like, within a couple of years, I had a couple of quite bad falls and detached both my retinas, which is, if I fall again, I could potentially blind myself. It's a family trait. It's just something. So that I had to scale back the running, really. I had to scale back the passion in it, and that was when I went out and found badminton and Pilates and tried to. That was one of the things that made me realise that I do get obsessed about things, because I went into quite a bad depression when I felt like I lost running. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it again for a while. So yeah, that was sort of when I started spiralling downwards, I think, after the second fall. After the first one, I just went a bit unsteady and thought, I think I'm going to be all right. And then after a couple of years, I started getting complacent and fell again. So yeah, I am a lot more balanced now though, and that's through hard work. It's not easy to be balanced.
Yeah.
I can very easily just let myself go again if I want to.
So it's hard work, but also having that awareness and having the willingness to do something about it, which I know you have. You've really got this wonderful commitment to your own process of finding out what you're all about and why you do stuff and how you can come up with more positive coping strategies and maintaining relationships and all that type of stuff. So credit to you for doing that. It's wonderful.
I do still have something, a little sort of thing on my something in me that occasionally goes, well, let's just go mad. Yeah, and that just normally involves a night out, probably to a live gig, drinking a lot of vodka or something. So it's going mad, but within a contained environment. But yeah, I do still, maybe a lot of people do have that in them. They just manage to keep it more controlled than I naturally do.
Yeah, so maybe it is, like you say, a safety valve, a release, and going out there full on now and again. Yeah, maybe that.
Yeah, it's funny because Martin once said to me, I went through this sort of thinking about this a couple of years ago. Martin, my husband, said to me, he says, I think what a lot of people do when they drink, they lose their inhibitions. He says, you don't do that, you lose your empathy. He says, and this is another thing that I've learned in the last couple of years, that I'm an empath as well. And I absorb a lot of things from other people. And I take a lot of things on. And he says, that's why you feel sometimes like you need to go out and drink yourself into that state where you don't take those things in anymore. So I've had to learn how to do that without having to go out and drink and do it. But yeah, he says that's what drinking does for you. It turns your empathy off. Not empathy, but it turns off my being an empath, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. And again, maybe that is the safety valve that you need, because my understanding of empaths, I know a few, is that you're very sensitive and you take on other people's energy. And if you're doing that constantly through your interactions, your work, whether it's Reiki, healing work, it can be very, very draining.
Yeah.
Your experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and that can be sort of, that I think I've realised that actually that's quite unbalancing. When you've spent your life taking on other people's emotions without realising you're doing it, now it's sometimes hard to work out whether they're mine or somebody else's. I've learned to sort of shield every morning. When I meditate, I ground and I shield myself, especially for work, the work environment that I'm in. So yeah, it's been great to learn a lot of things about myself in the last few years.
Yeah, it's sounds like a really inspiring and enlightening journey that you are continuing on.
Yeah.
Okay, that was really interesting. So next question that I'm going to ask everyone whilst it's going on is, how are you coping with the lockdown?
I've been up and down a little bit. To start off with, because I'm still working full time, it didn't really seem to make a lot of difference to me. Apart from right at the very start, where, because I've got a friend in America that's quite well up on knowing the PPE to wear and things like that, because she's involved in virus testing, I was more aware of needing to wear masks and things at work when we were close together. So it was quite a bit of a challenge at work to get the managers to listen to me. But now we've got plastic screens between us and we've got masks and things like that. So work's got better. It's still a bit of a worry because we all hang our coats in the same places. We use the same restrooms, all that kind of thing. So, but I've managed to get my head around that again now. I think mainly that it was like I had a week off and I spent a week at home, and then I went back, and that was when I struggled again when I went back, because it was back into a weird environment again with everybody wearing masks. But I'm back in that environment now, so I'm used to it. So yeah, this week's been a better week again. I think the only thing I'm struggling now with is when I try not to look at Facebook and things too much with people moaning about being at home. Because I know there is some people at the home and not getting paid. And I feel, don't know, I feel awful for them. And I think I'm starting to realise that I've been judging people without realising that I've been doing it. I've been judging everybody being at home on their 80% of money, sat in the sunshine, drinking a beer and enjoying themselves. Whereas actually it's not like that for everybody. Some people have got that. And actually some people that are only on 80%, that are on 80% of the money are still not happy because they're bored, which I can understand because I had a week off, that was enough. So yeah, I've realised I've been judging people and I shouldn't have been doing that. So I'm starting to feel a lot happier again now.
Good.
Yeah, especially now that I've managed to get my hair cut.
Yeah, good to see if Mr. Whipp whipped it off.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, so that's, again, great awareness around your own emotions there and the fact that you were judging people, and some of it was coming from social media, and that's a danger for all of us, isn't it, with social media and media in general. We've had a couple of people on Hive talking about this and how we can consume media and social media mindfully so that it isn't impacting our mental health too much, and we're looking after ourselves. And also, you know, what you said about adapting at work, adapting at home, and it's up and down. Sounds like there's anxiety, but sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. And at the moment,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I think it's anxiety of quite a lot of other people that I've been coming into contact with, not really being aware of why we're doing all the things that we're doing. It's something silly as whenever we're queuing up for the supermarket to go in, the person that's from the supermarket that's in charge of the queue, every single one of them on the way into the supermarket, we've had to say, "Can you move out the way, please?" Because they stand right at the door. And one of them was actually coming up and down the barrier and talking to everybody, and I was just like, "You're stood within half a metre of where I am. It's like, can you?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, I'll move out the way for you." It's like, if you've got it, you're giving it to every single person that's coming into the supermarket. So yeah, it's being aware, but then trying to say things to people in a kind way of, "Do you mind just moving out the way, please?" Just making them aware, but in a nice way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you said it's silly little things like that, but actually it isn't silly. It's very normal and very natural to be feeling this. I think a lot of people are feeling this kind of low level anxiety all the time, which is really debilitating for a lot of people. So stuff like that isn't silly. A lot of people are getting very annoyed about it as well as fear. But yeah, we can't legislate for other people, can we? All we can do.
No, this is it. I mean, it's compulsory now that we all wear the face masks at work. But you wouldn't believe the amount of people that wear them either like that or like that. On the chin or only over the mouth, not over the nose. I mean, they are uncomfortable. They are awful to wear. You can't really talk to each other with them on. But I don't know. We're wearing them for a reason.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Great. Thanks for that, Hayley. So we'll move on now to talk more about BPD, borderline personality disorder. And for people that perhaps aren't familiar with it, because I think it's not as well known as things like anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues, perhaps more common.
Yeah, I knew nothing about it until a doctor told me about it. So yeah, never even heard of it.
Yeah. So I did a little post about this on the Pathlight Facebook page. I think it was a week or so ago, and also helped me to gen up a little bit on some of the symptoms. So I believe there's kind of 7 key symptoms, and if you've got 5 of them, you're likely to be diagnosed with BPD. So perhaps if I just go through them, and maybe you can then talk a little bit about your own experience, if you want to say which of those symptoms you have, or just generally however you want to talk about your experience of it. So generally, borderline personality disorder, the symptoms are difficulty regulating emotions. So lots of ups and downs, nodding away there, Generally, there seem to be kind of 2 reactions that people with BPD have. One is anger, which is coming from feeling criticised by others. So that kind of, I'm being attacked, how dare you. And the other side of that anger, something underneath that anger, can be the fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, that type of stuff, which goes back to childhood experiences, I believe. Another one is being highly dependent on others, and maybe expecting your happiness to come from them, or having your needs met externally rather than from yourself. And then we've got problems with interpersonal boundaries, an insecure sense of self, so criticizing yourself, not quite knowing who you are, and also attempts at self-harm, which could lead to suicidal, getting onto the suicidal continuum as well. So those are the symptoms according to an article that I read about a week ago. How does that resonate with your own experience, Hayley?
Yeah, I would say some of those are very much so, and some of them really aren't. Yeah, I've written down sort of the ones that I feel like, well, I feel like I had more than I have now, but they are probably still part of who I am. It's just I'm learning to regulate and try and even those things out, like the emotional instability. It's only been, I would say, in the last 4 years that I've realised that maybe I've always been emotionally unstable, but that was maybe just when it really came to a head. When I did have my running falls, so I went into depression and anxiety. I've had an underactive thyroid for 15, 20 years, and that really affects you in so many different ways. And that's and so yeah, the emotional instability, very much so. Unless if I stop meditating, I have to meditate every morning now for 10 minutes before I go to work. I try to do longer, so if I get time I do longer, but 10 minutes is how I started back in 2017, and that was, I would say, the worst and the best year of my life. It was the worst year of my life because that was when I finally realised that I'd been heading down and down and down into the depression and the anxiety, in hindsight, for about probably 2 or 3 years before that, under work pressure and work stress and the running falls and actually the marathon training. I've realised I did about 2 years of non-stop marathon training with an underactive thyroid, working full time, lifting 20 kilo blocks of cheese around all day. I look back and I don't know how I did it, but I did it through mental strength probably, but that affected so many other things. So yeah, 2017, I finally got to the point in about June that I got at work, I was just crying all over the place, and I remember saying to somebody, I don't want to be here anymore. And he said, well, no, nobody wants to be here though, do they? Thinking I meant work. And I said, no, I don't want to be here anymore. And he was like, Hayley, I think you need to go to the doctors. And I'd been to the doctors the Christmas before that, and this was the first Christmas we did all the really, really long shifts at work. We worked sort of 60-hour weeks for 3 months. Yeah. But because we were all doing it, it felt normal, and it still does feel normal because we're all doing it together as a team, and we felt like we had to do it. We were doing like 5 12-hour days, so it felt normal. But that, looking back at that Christmas, I went to the doctors then, but just sort of I didn't really take in what was happening, I don't think. And that Christmas, the doctors didn't tell me, but I would say I had a mental breakdown that Christmas. It felt like my brain had melted. I remember going up to Mum and Dad's for Christmas Day, and we all went as a family with Martin's mum and dad as well, and his dad does a quiz for like Christmas days, things like that. And I just remember sitting there and going, I can't think, I can't do it. I can't think, I can't make decisions. I was just not there at all for about a week. But then I went on antidepressants, and I went back to work within the day after Boxing Day like I was supposed to, because I'm that kind of person. Like you said before, I'm committed to something when I'm committed. And I was a charge hand then, so it was an important job and I needed to be there, and that felt more important than me. But then it got to the June and I finally realised that no, I just need to, so the doctor signed me off for a few weeks. And it was during those few weeks that I found meditation. I've tried to do it before in meditation circles and things like that, being guided for an hour, but it never really felt like it was doing anything, if that makes sense. I went and I enjoyed it, and it was a good social thing as well, but it wasn't until those 5 weeks that I was off work and I found Headspace. I just did the free trial of the 10 days and I just thought, this is just repeating the same thing over and over and over. But they did say on the Headspace thing, this is how we do it. And through watching the little videos on Headspace, it made me understand how meditation works. It builds those neural pathways up. You need to do that for it to work properly. And there's a science to it. See, I've always been the kind of person that's very much everything's magic and sparkles. I don't want to know the science. It's just spiritual, and that's how it works, because you're connecting to something, which I still think you are, but you're connecting to yourself and you're connecting to everything. But I needed to do that groundwork, and I'd never done that groundwork before. So through using Headspace, it just changed my life completely. So yeah, that's through that I've managed to regulate myself a little bit better, but sometimes I still like to let myself go out of control. It's part of my personality as well. I've realised I got to 44, I think I was, when it all happened, and I was like, oh, I'm just too tired for this roller coaster anymore. I spent my whole life like this, but actually really enjoying being like that. Really enjoying going through the low bits, almost picking at the scab of the low bit to keeping the low bit a bit longer, because anything to make myself feel alive, because that's part of my personality. Maybe that's part of the obsession bit as well, I don't know. Yeah, it's passion is my passion. Anything, if I do anything, I do it in a passionate way, and I love people that are passionate about things, whether that's in a good way or a bad way. But I don't like anger. So I went through 2017, and that was a really angry year in my life as well. And I've never really been an angry person at all. But I went through the stage then, I would still say I'm a little bit now. My obsession became people more than, and this was when I realised there was a problem, because I'd had quite a close friendship with somebody at work, and I can't really remember what happened, but that close friendship sort of came to a bit of an end, and it just devastated me, absolutely. And that happened at that Christmas was when I got to know them, and it was over those 6 months running up to that June that the friendship sort of seemed to, I think I felt like I was too much for them. My personality was too much. I wanted too much from them. But to me then, everybody was like that. If they couldn't give me what I wanted, that meant that they didn't love me. They didn't think of me as that friend that I thought of them. I gave them everything and I expected that in return, which I've realised now is not a good way to be, really. It's not a healthy way to be. It's not I wouldn't say a normal way to be, because I don't like to use the word normal, but it's not the way that I should be thinking about people. And I do lapse into that still a little bit sometimes. So yeah, that was the first sort of thing that happened with the obsession side of it, and me starting to realise there was maybe something not quite right. And then
2017, it sounds like a really big year for you, Hayley.
Yeah.
Like you said, the best year, but also the worst year. So really painful lows, painful realizations.
Yeah.
But from that has come awareness, and through awareness, a lot of positive coping mechanisms, a lot of personal development work, which is to be able to manage your emotions better and cope with these symptoms of BPD in a measured away.
Not even realising what they were at the time. Yeah, I can't remember what else you said. You said obsessions or boundaries.
Yeah, so I was just looking at that list there, and that little story that you told about your work colleague, which I remember you telling me before.
Yeah.
So difficulty regulating emotions, the ups and downs, that was in there. The anger was in there, about that fear of rejection, fear of abandonment from the
Yeah, it's the abandonment. It's not. It wasn't so much. I don't get anger. Well, I got angry at them when I thought I was being rejected.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 There's that dependency on others. So you said you gave the other person all of you and expected the same in return.
Yeah.
So I need to get this from you in order to make me feel whole, maybe.
Yeah.
And that, again, in itself is a problem with interpersonal boundaries, which is the next one on the list.
Yeah. Yeah. Never had any of those.
Yeah. And then maybe it also ties into that insecure sense of self as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would say down the road of sort of boundaries, I've recently, in like last year, read a book about boundaries, and it's quite weird because I go through things in my life in the last couple of years, and then I find a book, I don't know if somebody recommends it, or I just go on Amazon and I get one, and then I see some others, and it's weird because I go through something and then I'll pick out a book and it'll be on my shelf for a while, and then I'll read it and I'll go, oh yeah, I do that, yeah, and it's actually, I'm reading about what I've been doing for the last 6 months. It's quite weird, really. Because if you read things in advance, you don't really even realise what this thing means. But yeah, boundaries. I never even knew what boundaries were. Never, because I don't feel like I have any boundaries. And I do now. I'm starting to learn to put them in place now if I need to. But I never had boundaries. I didn't even know what they were, so I never thought anybody else had boundaries. I mean, this poor lad at work, I must have just stomped all over his boundaries, all over the place. But because he didn't know about boundaries either, I don't think, he just let me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been quite enlightening learning about boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. I can echo that myself, I suppose through my psychotherapy training and more general kind of development. I've learned a lot about boundaries, and I continue to learn. I don't feel like I'm there by any stretch at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, the number of times it comes up of, oh, hang on, there's someone overstepping my boundary, and I need
and not even just people. I've actually realised my work life has changed immensely since I've learnt about boundaries at work. Mm. The part of my therapy last year with through the BPD thing, she actually got me to fill out a values and goals assessment, and it's something that I'm going to try and do every year now. And it's basically down one side there is like family relationships, marriage, parenting, friendships, and then you have to put on what type of person would you like to be in this area. So you give it a score out of 1 to 10, not what you actually are, where you want to be, and then where are you actually there. And it made me realise that at work, I just wanted to go to work, do my work, and come home again. And actually, I wanted to be able to do a lot more things training-wise with the Reiki and massage, and I wanted to put my energy into myself. And I actually realised that I was putting all my energy into work, everything, through these 12-hour shifts, through being a charge hand, through being a line-up. It's like, at one point, work and running was my whole life. That was it. That's all I had. And then I fell and I couldn't really run anymore. And I got so stressed at work, I had to drop down my job back down from being a charge hand because I couldn't deal with it anymore. And it was just like, oh, what do I do now? I haven't got anything. I don't have work, and but I've actually realised that filling that form out last year just completely changed everything. I straight away wrote a letter to HR at work and said, I want to go back onto the line, just work a physical job again, which is what I've always really loved doing. And it took a bit of doing. After about 6 months, they finally let me. But I kept pushing for it. And that was me putting a boundary in at work. And last Christmas, everybody the majority of people were still doing 12-hour shifts for about, well, actually, some people started it in June, Christmas shifts in June. But then most people were doing them for the last couple of months. And I said last year, nothing, I'm doing nothing. I'm doing 8 hours, that's it. And it just felt amazing. I was like, I put a boundary in place and the world hasn't fallen apart.
Yay!
Yeah, it was amazing. But actually, I've let that boundary go slightly again this year, and I've been doing a few 11-hour shifts. And after a couple of weeks, I do see myself going downhill again. But I'm aware, and I say to them, right, I'm taking a week off from doing it. But it just feels amazing to be able to be that person that can say, no, I don't want to do that, and not feel really bad about it.
Absolutely. Learning to say no, not feeling guilty.
Yeah.
It's all about self-care, I think, really, Hayley.
Yeah, it is.
Yourself above a job or an obsession or whatever else it is. And
yeah.
Your self-care.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling.
Very empowering. Okay, so is there anything else that you want to talk about around what happened in 2017, or should we kind of move on to?
No, I think we can move on from that, I think.
Okay, so we talked about the symptoms, and that's a lot of your experience resonates with the stereotypical symptoms of borderline personality disorder. I wonder how that actually, what the outcomes of that are. So what difficulties do you have around relationships, around personal pain, just coping on a day-to-day basis because of all those symptoms that you experience, sometimes more, sometimes less? Oh, have we lost you, Hayley?
Come back.
Oh.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're back again. I just lost you for a little bit.
Did you hear the question? Shall I go again?
Well, I think I got the majority of it.
Yeah, so just basically the outcomes for you. So all those symptoms that you have to manage, what outcome does it have for your relationships, just getting through each day? What's painful, what's hard?
I would say that as much as sometimes I rebel against being married, because it's part of my personality to want to, like I sort of touched on it slightly earlier, that in the last few years, my most recent obsessions has been people, getting to know people. I'm obsessed with getting to know people, their ins and outs and their passions and all that kind of thing. And sometimes I struggle with that and marriage at the same time. But as much as I think that's just part of my personality, but there is the part of me that knows that being married to Martin is my rock. He's my absolute rock. He really, really is. If I wasn't married to him, I wouldn't be married to anybody. And I don't think I'd be at the place that I am now without him. It was a rocky road us getting together. We've known each other a long, long time, and it was a rocky road us getting together. But I think without him, I'd still be doing this a lot. And when I'm having bad moments, he said that he wouldn't have me any other way. He loves me just the way that I am, even when I'm turning into Harley Quinn and I've gone a bit bonkers. He wouldn't have me any other way. So, but yeah, I still do have inner struggles that sometimes I can't even feel like I can talk to him about them because he doesn't understand, and that's what he struggles with. He says sometimes when I'm suffering, and I'm obviously suffering, he doesn't know how to help me. But just in being there is helping me. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like a beautiful relationship, and I've met Martin, and I can see that just kind of unconditional love and acceptance of you for who you are, the whole you, which is a beautiful thing,
Yeah, even when I rebel against him, which I do.
Yeah, I think that's the foundation of any really truly caring relationship. I don't know, that sounds a little bit stigmatizing, but I would suggest, from a kind of therapeutic perspective and from just a love perspective, for me, therapy and counselling is an act of love, and it is just accepting the other person exactly as they are, without any judgment, without any criticism, and loving them for who they are. And it's it sounds like in having that, you said it already, he's your rock.
Yeah, and it's given me the space to start learning about myself. Yeah, I mean, we have our moments, everybody does, don't they? And lockdown's been quite difficult. But yeah, it's because we work so well because we do things together and we do them separately, where we never did that in our past relationships. And we've known each other about 25 years, and that makes a massive difference. So he's known this part of me for a long time. I've been through stress and anxiety and depression my whole life, really. I remember from being really small, me and my brother both got bullied a lot because we both wore glasses, and we were both really sensitive, and we both still are quite sensitive souls. And yeah, we got bullied a lot. And I remember saying to my mum when I was really quite small, "Oh, I'm depressed, Mum." And she said, "You can't be depressed, you're too little." And I always remember her saying that to me. And then she probably doesn't remember if I said anything to her about it. But yeah, I mean, bullying then there was nothing really was ever done about bullying back in the 70s, 80s. It was just something that happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of this comes from that, really.
Well, yeah, that's interesting, because that was going to be my next question, Hayley, about what your memories of early life are, whether it was school related or from your parents, anything that you think might have triggered or led to the difficulties you have around BPD. And certainly what you said there about your mum, you didn't get that feeling validated, which is really important, I think, for all humans, not just children, to have your feelings heard, to feel validated. But the bullying also, I'm guessing, is an aspect. So what else? If you look back on your childhood, are there various things that were there all the time that you think may have contributed to your mental health issues in adulthood, or are there certain events, some kind of traumas that you can put your finger on?
I think the bullying thing was right. Like I say, I can never remember a time that we weren't, really, because I think I got contact lenses when I was 16. So yeah, I mean, when I hit sort of 13, 14, and I started turning into more of a girly girl. I've never been a girly girl, but you would say if you saw photographs of me up until the age of about 13 that I was a boy. I wanted to be a boy. So maybe that's part of where it all comes from as well. I was a boy in my head, and actually still sometimes I still feel like that. I can understand why again, back then it wasn't talked about. It was just one of those things. But now, sort of with transsexuals and all and operations and maybe I would have become a man. I don't know if it had been around then, because in my head that's what I was. So maybe that's part of where all this comes from as well. But yeah, that and the bullying, and I would say I've got wonderful parents, but I don't know, I never really felt like we got a lot of nurturing from them. Now I would say that we do more. Maybe as an adult I see it more, but maybe they didn't get the nurturing off their parents. I've got they're quite different. My mum's really, really outgoing, talks to everybody, and my dad's a really, really sensitive, quiet soul. And that side of the family is my uncle. One of my uncles fell out with the family, and then we found out a few years later that he'd hung himself. And he was always the one that he wasn't the black sheep of the family, but he was always a little bit strange, as I would have said then. But now looking back, he probably had something like this as well. He had some kind of and I would say my dad's side of the family, quite a lot of them have probably got mental health issue things going on. So maybe that's part of where it comes from as well. But it's not until I've got older that I've seen myself in both my parents. And it's been quite a hard mixture to sort of live with sometimes, because sometimes I want to go out there and talk to everybody and really get to know people. And then literally you can flick a switch and I want to be on my own now. don't want to talk to anybody,
Mhm.
and I just want to be quiet on my own.
Yeah.
And that's quite hard to deal with sometimes. Like even last night, I was so tired from work, we had to go out and do something, and Martin knows I can't keep anything hidden from anybody. It's written on my face, even if I don't say anything. It's just written on my face, like, I really don't want to do this now. But sometimes I have to force myself to do things, and I'm not, I don't know, I'm not that kind of person that wants to. So yeah, it's been hard that way as well, I suppose. Those two conflicting parts of my personality.
Yeah.
So I'm knitting them together.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's various different factors from childhood that may or may not have contributed to these, mental health issues. And I mean, yeah, with the best will in the world, we all try and be the best parents we can be, but we're all bound to fail in some way.
Yeah.
No fault of our own. And you know, I did the Hoffman process 8 years ago, personal development course, and a big part of that is the concept that everyone's guilty but no one's to blame, because we've all been parented in some way.
Yeah.
Parents will have had their own kind of behavioural patterns, neuroses, flaws, and that's because of the way they were parented, and that's because of the way their parents were parented, and so on. And what we can do, I suppose, is just learn, like you've been doing over the past few years, Hayley, learn about ourselves and try and break that chain just through awareness, commitment, self-development, all that type of stuff. And then there's the bullying and the gender identity issues, so that kind of plays into that insecure sense of self, maybe. So there's all sorts of stuff in there, and also the hereditary mental health issues on your dad's side of the family you talked about. So
yeah, I would say it's only in the last 3 years that I've developed a really strong sense of self as well. It's I went through a stage before I went for my counselling, the last lot, when I first went for my assessment after the doctor sort of said to me about the traits of BPD. I went with a big, I wrote a lot of things down because a friend who told me that she thought I had bipolar, and she told me to go to the doctors. She said, just let it all out. Whereas I said to you, didn't I? I worry about forgetting important things, so I just wrote it all down and passed on a piece of paper. I've actually lost that piece of paper, and it upsets me a little bit. I'm sure it'll turn up somewhere. And I said to her, one of the things that is the weirdest thing, the main thing that makes me feel better about what's going on, all this turmoil that's going on, the main thing that makes me feel better about it is when I wear colourful clothes. It was the most bizarre thing. And I don't know, and even now, I feel like that. And I feel like maybe after my Reiki training, I want to go into some kind of colour, because you can do colour therapy as well. But yeah, and she said, well, what do you think it is that makes you feel? I said, I don't know, but I feel like there's something in me that needs to be out, and I don't know what it is. And I went through about a year of this, of feeling like there was something inside me that needed to be out. And now I feel like I've got the confidence to actually be who I want to be. I wear the clothes that I want to wear. I wear the colourful. I don't care if my clothes don't match. I just wear whatever. I'm actually quite low key today, really. But yeah, that self-ascent and that confidence, I think that maybe came from the bullying. But now it's just I'm me, and that's it, really. Sometimes I still have moments where I sit and I think, oh no, maybe I shouldn't have done that today, or I shouldn't have worn that today. But most of the time, I'm more me than I ever have been.
Yeah, great stuff. And interesting what you were saying there about colour and how it affects you, and colour therapy. And I was talking to one of my friends a couple of weeks ago who went to have some colour therapy. And she said she went into this lady's house, and the whole of the front room was basically filled by a dome-like white structure, like an inflatable room within a room. And she got into this pod, shut the door, and was given a remote control. And basically, you could cycle through all of the colours of the spectrum, and it just fills the whole of this white pod. And just seeing being surrounded by one particular colour, she said, was an incredibly powerful experience.
Yeah.
And the therapist said, if there are some colours that you avoid, the ones that you aren't comfortable with, that's where you need to go. Because
Yeah.
you need to have more of that colour and get that. It's a therapeutic process. Don't understand the science behind it. It sounds fascinating though.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like this morning, I was getting dressed, and normally I'd put a bright coloured top on underneath here, but this morning I put this one on, and it's like an earthy browny kind of colour. And I was like, oh no, I should put something bright on because I'm going to be on the hive. And I thought, no, actually, I feel like I need to wear this because this is more grounding. When I wear something like this, I feel more grounded. So yeah, I think colour therapy needs to be the next thing that I do my training in. Once I can, because I think I've already got it in me. I think I'm going to do my training and go, oh yeah, I already do that. Oh yeah, but it means I can do it for other people then as well.
Yeah, well, once we're out of lockdown, if you want me to put you in touch with the colour therapist.
Yeah, that sounds good, yeah.
Fascinating. Okay, so, so you've talked a lot about your difficulties, your symptoms, and the way it's impacted a lot of your relationships. I know you've struggled to maintain some relationships. Some people you've had to let go. Some people have
Some people have let me go.
You.
By those people letting me go, those have been the milestone points of me realising what's going on. And I've realised that sometimes people are just in your life for a very small time to make you realise something that's going on. It was like the BPD, the empath, every time something happened where I felt like somebody had abandoned me, that was when I went on another path of realising. It was actually a Reiki healer that said to me, why are you here? And I told her about, again, feeling like I've been abandoned by somebody else, another friendship. And she said, Hayley, do you think maybe you're an empath? And I went home and I looked it up and I was like, oh, right, okay, I need to learn all about this as well now. And as soon as I got a book, I was like, yep, I've got all those things. So yeah, each of those people doing what they've done, I'm glad that they've done it now. And now I go into new friendships and relationships with a different sense of where it might go. It's either I don't cling so much to people. I'm like, okay, if you're going to go, then you're going to go, and I'll probably learn something again about myself.
Yeah, that's a lovely way to put it. And there's a theme from most of the people that I'm talking to like this one-to-one on the Hive. And every single one of them have had some kind of challenges with, mental health, whatever it is, some challenges throughout their life. And not one of them so far has said, actually, I wish that hadn't happened, because growth and enlightenment and personal progression has come from those real dark places. So would you say that yourself?
Yeah. You do at the time. You do wish it wasn't happening at the time, but I'm still alive to tell the tale. So I've made it through most of... I think if I'm still here after 2017, I'm staying here now.
Great stuff. So would you swap it if you were given a sparkly magic wand, as you said earlier on, and could just zap all of your BPD traits, your experiences, those mental health difficulties, relationship difficulties, would you zap them away and just be, I know you say you don't like the word normal, but just have a very flat experience of life?
No, I don't think I would. Yeah, no, I don't think I would. Sometimes you ask him, if you'd asked me this last Saturday, when we nearly did this last Saturday and I cried all over the place all day, then yes, I'd have said, yeah, just take it away. I'm sick of it now. But no, I don't think I would. Not to have a completely flat exit. In fact, when I went on that first Christmas when I went to the doctors and they put me on, I can't remember which. Oh, it was sertraline to start off with, and that was awful. That was like I was on an adrenaline roller coaster the whole time. That was just an awful fit. So I came off that quite quickly, and I can't remember what the second was that they put me on, but that just numbed me out completely. It just made my life go. And after about 2 months, I said, I'm going to have to come off this because I'd rather have this than this. Because this is just, and that was when I came off it, and then I went downhill into the June, and I went on metazapine. Metazapine really, really helped because it helps me sleep. I'm off it now most of the time. If I feel like I haven't slept properly for 2 or 3 nights, I'll have some to help me sleep, because that seems to reset me. But yeah, I wouldn't, I know some people don't like taking antidepressants, but I think if you find the right one, the metazapine really, really helped me, as well as the meditation. And yeah, so no, I wouldn't want a completely flat life.
I mean, I suppose that's a totally unrealistic question, because nobody has a completely flat life.
No.
And like you
No,
said,
but you think people do though, don't you? Until you actually get talking to people. And I think this is maybe a bit of my fascination about talking to people and getting into their inner workings as well. It's because you think, oh, they're happy all day, tootling along. Whereas actually, when you get to know somebody, nobody's in that flat kind of life, are they?
That's right, yeah. And quite often we might project that, we put a mask on, and everyone thinks, oh, that person's sorted, low maintenance, don't need to check up.
Yeah, well, this is it. This is through my whole sort of, most of my working life, when I've had time off sick from depression and things. And I said in this job I wasn't going to do it, and it's happened again. But in other jobs when I've been off and I've gone back, and people have gone, oh, I can't believe you've been off with depression. You're always so happy. Like, yeah, because as I'm either really happy or really sad. I'm never anything in between. But I'm starting to regulate that slightly with some of the things that the therapist gave me. She gave me quite a lot of how to, like, I can't think what they're called, emotion regulation handouts. I got quite a lot of those, and interpersonal effectiveness handouts, which really helped. And they're good for me to go back and work through if I am suddenly hit with a big thing. For a lot of people it's not a big thing, but things can come out of nowhere for me that I feel are massive things. So I've got these to help me. But it wasn't until I got these that I realised that not everybody gets affected the way that I do emotionally, about what some people would say is a little thing and they could just poo-poo it, whereas actually it absolutely devastates me. So yeah.
Everyone's unique, and they'll all have their own unique experience, even within diagnoses of BPD, which I ought to have said at the beginning is otherwise known as emotionally unstable personality disorder. Which
I think that's a better way of. I think that's a better word for it, really. I think BPD is more American, isn't it?
I don't know. I think it's so. My knowledge is that the emotionally unstable personality disorder is being adopted more now, because it does fit. It explains it better.
It does, yeah. Because borderline personality disorder makes it sound like you've got a borderline personality. It sounds like you're a bit, So the emotionally unstable is better, I think.
So it sounds to me like you've got a lot of strategies, a lot of positive mechanisms there in place to raise your awareness. So you're learning more about yourself. You're being able to regulate yourself more, and also accept the highs and the lows. Would you say that's a fair summary?
Yeah, I accept them up to a point. I still, when I'm in those lows, I still think that sometimes that I'm never going to come back out of it again. I still do get completely into my own head. It's like, and sometimes I do, I don't do it on purpose, I don't think. But say, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I had a week off work, and this always happens. And I think this has come about because the meditation had to come because of work, because I was angry about a lot of things to do with work. So I meditate before work, just as a routine now. When I first started, I had a supervisor at work that caused me quite a lot of anger. I've had to learn a lot of patience through one of my everybody in the factory has had to learn a lot of patience through this supervisor, which is one of the things that I've learned at Madhumaka at the Buddhist Centre. Everybody's here to teach us something, and she's here to teach us patience. But so when I say, for example, I have a week off work from holiday, I tend, and even on a weekend, I tend not to meditate because it's not in that routine. I get up, have my breakfast, meditate, go to work. So I have a week off. And every single time it gets to the end of the week and I think, oh, I've got quite unbalanced again this week. Or I realised a week later, and I don't seem to be able to sort of manage to do that yet. But while I'm still working, I'm still meditating. So yeah, I can let myself go downhill without realising that I'm doing it still until I hit a certain point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're getting better at it though, recognising and doing those self-care things. So you say you've got medication, which you use when you need to for sleep and mood regulation. You've got meditation. You've got your running and other movement things, which you're doing in moderation now.
Yeah.
Your therapy, and also, I suppose, all the reading, all the personal development and awareness stuff that you do. It seems to be like a really nice, holistic mind, body, soul thing you've got going on in order to grow and learn and accept as you go.
Yeah, and through the, I wouldn't say I'm a Buddhist, but I would say through going to Madhumaka and meeting you and a few other people in 2018, which was a bit of a breakthrough point as well, because of that bad year. And then I came there in April, and it wasn't until I was there amongst a whole host of really positive, light, wonderful people, I thought, there is no wonder I've been depressed when I work in such a negative, awful atmosphere. But I tend not to, again, now I bubble myself every morning because I was taking that in from being an empath without even realising I was doing it. And I was a negative person. I was one of those people that moaned about work all day. And it was this and it was that, and this is not good enough, and it's just not right. That's what everybody to do, but it's just not right, this happening. But now I've got to the point where I try and sort of put that positivity out at work now. But yeah, coming to Madhumaka made a massive difference as well. Because, and it made a massive difference to me because I felt like I could do something. I remember going to the centre to ask about the voluntary work, and I was speaking to one of the nuns on the reception, and I said, I don't really know what I can do because I can't build anything and I can't fix anything and I can't. And she said, can you iron? I said, oh yeah, I can iron. Can you clean? I said, yeah, oh yeah, I can clean. You're perfect then. Come and spend a week with us. And I remember being there, and when they tried to get me in the cafe, but yeah, that'll come one day, I think. But yeah, and all the lads were outside doing all the heavy work outside, and I was desperate to be outside doing all that. But it was the weather was so awful. But yeah, that was a massive sort of turning point as well, going there and learning about Buddhist principles and just feeling that all this love that I've had inside myself, I've been channeling it in the wrong direction. I've been getting all this obsession with people and love and all that kind of thing, all mixed in together, and thinking that I need to get back what I'm giving to other people. So yeah, that was a massive turning point. And then doing the Reiki training just blew my mind as well. It was like my whole life felt like it had been leading towards doing Reiki therapy for people.
Yeah, and we'll perhaps talk about that next time if you come on again, Hayley. So we need to end shortly.
Okay.
But yeah, I love what you said there.
11, so the angels are watching us as well.
I just checked my clock as well now. Hello, angel o'clock. So yeah, I love what you said there about what was it? I've distracted myself. Oh yes, everyone is there to teach us something. So if there is a challenging relationship in our life, whether it's our manager or our partner or one of that, we can learn from it. And
yeah, that's one of the biggest things I've taken away from Madhumaka. Is okay, this is teaching me. Yeah, this is teaching me something.
Yeah.
I always try and turn things around. Not so much find the silver lining, but try and find a reason for why something is happening
Everything is an opportunity for growth, and certainly, the challenging situations, whether it's a relationship or the coronavirus thing, it's an opportunity for growth.
I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the coronavirus.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you wouldn't have been doing this if we hadn't met at Madhumaka.
Exactly, yeah.
And I also love what you said there about surrounding yourself with positivity and light, those type of people. And when you go into work, you put that protective bubble on, and you are bringing the light. You know, you're being the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to say. I tried to go in as a little lighthouse.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And you know, again, myself, my friendship circle has changed massively over the last 8 years, and yeah, I read somewhere that you are the average of the 3 people you spend most time with. I'm not sure if I agree with that or not, but I am aware that there has been a major shift in the people I hang around with, and
Yeah.
Hive, and meeting people like you at the Buddhist Centre, and yeah, the Hive is just totally surrounded by lots of lovely, growthful, light, loving, accepting people who are on some kind of spiritual journey and awareness and talking openly about mental health. And it's all lovely. And I want to thank you again, Hayley, for
thank you for the opportunity.
No, you're very welcome. So I wonder, you were feeling pretty nervous at the beginning, and certainly last week as well. It was a whoa moment. How are you feeling now, having talked for over an hour about your own?
I feel great. Yeah, you've really helped me through it all. Yeah, I thought you were just going to say, "Oh, tell me your story." No. So yeah, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it.
Great. Yeah, I've enjoyed it too. And it's interesting that you said last week that you've done loads of notes. You've basically gone through, you opened up your Pandora's box, haven't you, and gone through your whole journey, and it had been really painful, and lots of just came up, and you made loads of notes, and then you've lost those notes. And I said, you probably won't need them. Just have a talk and it'll all come out.
Oh no, the note I lost was the original one that I wrote for the doctor. When I went to the doctor, oh no, I've got one here.
Hey.
I've got another one here. And I've got one pinned up right behind you with all my milestones on it.
So I'm curious, how much have you relied on your notes and how much of it has just been coming out?
The only thing I did from my notes was the values and goals assessment that the therapist gave me, and the milestones I had. I felt like I needed those, but I haven't really looked at them, so most of it has just come out.
Yeah,
and I feel like I've gone off on a tangent quite a lot.
No, it's all been good. I think it's been a very organic and very authentic chat. So again, thank you very much for your vulnerability, your openness, your honesty. You're doing a great service to yourself, I feel, to me, and to the rest of the members of the Hive who will see this. So yeah, hats off and thank you.
Sometimes I feel like I'm too open with people. This was one of the traits actually that I didn't bring up, that I went through a stage, and I still am sometimes, where a lot of people say they don't feel like they're good enough. Where people say to me, "Oh, do you not feel like you're good enough for such and such?" I'm like, "No, I feel like I'm too much. I feel like I need to scale myself back a lot." And I think this is where the colour thing comes from as well. I feel like, I just feel like my personality is too much for some people. Maybe that comes from that original friendship with the person at work. I felt like I'd sort of pushed them away from being too much. So I do feel like sometimes I open up too much to people. And actually that can get me into trouble in some ways, because there is people in this world that prey on people like me.
This is true. Yeah, and again, I suppose that comes down to a boundary thing. And if your boundaries are pretty fluid and you're letting everyone see all of you, that might be okay for you. You might feel safe doing that. But for other people, they might have boundaries that go, "Whoa, hang on, no, this is too much."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a continuing journey. I'm still learning myself.
But thank you.
All good, all good. So I'm going to put you on the spot now, Hayley, and say, will you come back again to talk more about your journey to becoming a Reiki healer, and maybe do a demo or some distance healing or something like that?
I'll come back to talk about that, and I'll do some practicing in the meantime. I've done distant healing, but never done it online. If it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Anything. I've always been the kind of person that's shied away from presenting things. But I think I feel easy enough with you to be able to do that. So
great.
I'll work on that.
Thank you very much. So we'll arrange that and talk about how we're going to do it nearer the time. So yeah, I've really enjoyed that, Hayley. Thank you very much once again. And is there anything else that you want to bring? Anything you feel that it's important, an important part of your journey, or anything around BPD that we haven't covered so far?
I can't think of anything, no, apart from if anybody ever feels like I don't know, it's quite hard to say, because some doctors are good about things and recognising things. I mean, I was lucky that I went along, my friend told me to go along because she thought I was bipolar like her, and it all came out. And maybe I was just lucky enough to find a doctor that knew what BPD is, because obviously I've probably had it my whole life without realising that I've had it. So I would say, don't be afraid to go to the doctors, but and just tell them everything like I did. But I did it in a way of I wrote everything, and I was just completely honest about everything. Everything even that I thought was a little bit like, well, she's not going to want to know that. But I was like, no, I'm just going to, yeah. So I would say don't shy away from going to doctors about things, because the therapy, this second lot of counselling I had, has just really, really helped me. Yeah.
Yeah, I've kind of seen that in you. If you don't mind me reflecting that back, I've seen you grow and become more balanced, stable, should I say?
Yeah.
That's great advice, Hayley, about going to seek professional help. And I think quite often with BPD and also bipolar and other personality disorders, it's quite often a friend who will spot that something isn't quite right.
Yeah.
It goes back to what you were saying at the beginning, I think, around thinking that am I quite normal, or is everyone else not quite normal, or is everyone like this? I'm not quite this.
Yeah.
It quite often takes a friend or a family member who knows you well enough and cares about you to say, I think there might be something here that you want to have a look at, and just go and speak to your GP and see what happens.
But yeah, finding a more balanced life has been it's going to continue to be my journey. And it fascinated me when we came to Madhumaka, and one of the first things, when we went into a meditation session, and one of the monks said, Madhumaka actually means middle way. And I was just like, that just blew my mind. I was just like, oh, this is why I'm here. This is my middle way. This is the start of my middle way. Yeah, it just and it still does blow my mind, really.
It's beautiful how you found that place, isn't it? So the highs, the lows, actually, I need the middle way, and so that's great. Lovely. I think that's a great place to end. So
sorry if we've gone over time.
It's okay. No, there's no time limit, but I think that rounds things off nicely. So thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you.
Back in to talk about your Reiki journey and do a bit of a demo. And I think I just need to say to the folks in the Hive, if you're struggling or curious about any of this stuff, then feel free to send me a message. If you want to put a comment underneath this video, Hayley may or may not respond to it. No pressure, Hayley. Tomorrow is Friday the 1st of May, absolutely, because it's Thursday today. And what we've got going on in the Hive is a quiz. So it's called It's Your Round. And basically, you choose a category and bring 10 questions, and everyone asks 10 questions on their category. We all get points and see who's the winner, and it's all a bit of fun. It's not super serious. So come along to that. It's going to be on Zoom. If you fancy it, can you message me first, please, just to choose a category, so we haven't got 8 people doing a music round. That would be great. So that's 8 o'clock tomorrow, Friday, the 1st of May. And that's it. Thank you once again, Hayley.
Thank you.
See you soon.